Good morning. How is everybody doing? I think it's the only Google people who are saying "ooh" over here. Sorry that you guys had to wait outside for a bit from a registration perspective, but we're delighted to have you here. Welcome to Playtime 2019. Okay. Every year, we want to bring the best and the brightest together to really think about where the ecosystem is going, share what we have top of mind as we look into the next year, as well as learn from you. Get your feedback on things to do. This year, we have 500 plus of you coming from 45 plus countries, mostly across Europe, Middle East, and Africa, some as far as from the United States, and 100 plus Googlers from 23 teams and 13 countries here. Anytime you see like one of the yellow lanyards, please stop by and talk to us. So this is about us interacting with you, but also you interacting with each other. How many of you are sitting next to somebody you already know? Literally everybody, right? So before the end of the week, end of the day, not the week, do take the time to talk to each other. One of the things I find that is really great about my role is every day I'm inspired by people in this room and across the world by the amazing things you're trying to build to entertain people, to make lives better, get them to be more productive, etc. Together, we are making this world a better place. And our goal from Google Play perspective is to do everything we can to help you rise to the top. So we have a lot of content for you today. We hope it'll inspire you to create even more better things in the coming year. And we hope you will keep us honest. Tell us what we should be building so that you can build for the world. With that, welcome again, and let me introduce you to our VP of Product and UX for Google Play, Tian.
Thanks, Purnima. Hi, everyone. I'm Tian, and I run Product and UX for Google Play and Android App Safety. It's a pleasure to be addressing you again. Thank you all for traveling here. A lot's happened in this past year. In the last 12 months, Google Play has grown quite a bit. We've seen over 116 billion downloads of your apps and games delivered to practically every country on the planet. With such scale, we feel an enormous responsibility to respect and protect everyone in this ecosystem, both the users downloading your apps and you, the developers creating them. It's critical that we work together to build and maintain user trust. Without user trust, there'll be no one to download your apps and games. There'll be no ecosystem. Over the past year, we've put a lot of energy into trust and safety, both in the Android operating system and in Play. Android 10 had a very strong focus on privacy and security. For example, users can now decide whether or not to grant location control in the background. We've also cut access to permanent identifiers like device IMEI or serial numbers, making it much harder to identify people's phones. Chet will be on soon to tell you more. For Play, a couple weeks ago at the Android Developer Summit, I revealed a little bit more about our efforts. I want to reinforce those points, and I want to share even more detail with you today. User trust and safety has always been a top priority at Google Play. We have a small army of human reviewers, teams of dedicated security engineers constantly improving Play Protect, and policy updates to evolve with the complex threats that we see. This year, we've been increasing all our detection capabilities. We're looking for impersonators, repackagers, bad content, and other forms of abuse. We also have teams dedicated to fighting refund and gift card abuse on your behalf. As a result, apps that are installed from Google Play are an order of magnitude more safe than from any other source. But we know there's a lot more we can do, and the threats are constantly changing. It's going to take all of us working together to keep users safe. For example, we've seen SDKs that seem well-behaved, but later try to exfiltrate personal information, or sometimes do really evil things, like enlist user phones into botnets. We're up against some sophisticated bad actors, and all of you have to be careful about which SDKs you bring on board and keep tabs on their behavior. But we have plans to help you here. Just to give you a sense of the scale of this problem, we recently took action on a malicious SDK. It affected over 200,000 apps. As you can imagine, it's really hard to contact 200,000 developers reliably. By the way, that's why last year I told everyone to make sure that their contact information was up to date in the console. Another example of where we needed the help of the ecosystem is when we collectively restricted access to SMS and call log permissions. Thanks to your hard work, 98% fewer apps now access this sensitive data. Users are safer, and they know they're safer when they download apps that request fewer permissions. To help protect children and to give parents more confidence when choosing apps for their children, we updated our families policies. They're more stringent with regards to content, ads, and PII. And we're asking you for more information on who your app is for so we can surface the right app to the right age groups. We're not stopping there. We're working with teachers to better identify quality apps for children. We're working on rules and product changes so that users understand their subscriptions. We're working to ensure developers access background location data appropriately. We're also starting to work with SDK developers to help them improve their quality and to help app developers know which SDKs are safe. Now, let me pause there. That's a lot of change. And changes like these are hard to make gracefully on such a large ecosystem. We totally get the burden that it places on you to have to constantly adapt to these changes in policies, especially when the vast majority of you are doing nothing wrong. I'd like to give you a little more context into our review process and a sense of scale. Every day, we see thousands of new developer accounts. It turns out a large number of these are actually previously banned developers. They're trying to get back on the store and republish their bad apps. Using a variety of signals, the vast majority of these are actually prevented from republishing again. Every day, we also see tens of thousands of new and updated app submissions. We have machines and models that will test and analyze all these submissions, but every single day, 30,000 of them will be flagged for human review. Between the machines and the humans, we try to hold the quality bar high. For example, we try to detect apps that are impersonating, repackaging apps, ensuring they have appropriate ad load or appropriate content, but most importantly, that they're free of malware. Now, you've told us that our change process could use some improvement, that our communications were too vague, impersonal, or perhaps you needed more time to deal with these changes. That is absolutely on us to fix, and I promise you that we will continuously improve in this area. We're also working to provide you with more actionable detail in the Play console, more information on the status of app reviews, policy changes that could be impacting your apps, and other critical information. So look for that coming in 2020. We have to keep our users safe. It's in our shared interest, and it's the only way we'll keep this platform growing and thriving. So please keep working with us. Please keep providing feedback, and help us through this period of change. We've also made some very specific progress in protecting your apps, your business, your intellectual property. We know that piracy has hurt the ability to monetize premium apps. You'll hear later, but the combination of LVL and safety net, you've told us, can provide more binary protection than you see on iOS. And we actually intend to do a lot more here. And Kobi will give you some details of that coming up soon. Now let's talk about some of the ways we're helping you reach users and build your businesses. We continue to invest in modern Android development. These new tools will help you be more productive and more efficient, and you hear a lot more about that from Chet real soon. For distribution, it has been 18 months since we introduced the Android app bundle as our vision for the future of app distribution. Many of you in this room have already adopted this. In fact, over 270,000 app bundles are now in production, covering 25% of active installs. Developers that switch see substantial decreases in app size, and as a result, and most excitingly, some have seen up to 11% uplift in installs. In a few minutes, Milena and Kobi will talk to you about how we're adapting this for games. Another way we help you is by helping you launch successfully. By now, you should all be familiar with the many features that we provide, from beta testing features to technical quality testing to stage rollouts. Recently, we've been talking a lot about creating demand through features like pre-registration. Now, we recently just finished a successful launch of a small app you may have heard, Call of Duty Mobile. It saw almost 60 million installs on Android in the first 10 days. With our new store merchandising capabilities, we were able to build hype all around the world and drive tens of millions of pre-registrations. We also worked with them to enable custom beta groups so they could test their game on specific devices in specific locales. This exclusive beta program is something we're hoping to scale out to more developers soon. All of this capability is going to be available to all of you, and I can't wait to hear about your successes in the coming years. Another long-term bet for us is PlayPass. At $4.99 a month, users get access to hundreds of awesome apps and games, free of ads and in-app purchases. I'm incredibly excited about this personally. I've been in the games industry for more than 2 decades. I've shipped games and game consoles. And I know that the industry needs business models that work for all kinds of apps and games. Android has more reach than any other platform. And I want it to be a place where creative indie breakouts and shorter, story-based games can be successful alongside free-to-play titles and innovative apps. We'll do that by compensating developers fairly for the value they provide to our PlayPass users. So whether it's a daily diary app, or a short game that can be finished in a few hours, or a game that you play for weeks on end, we're using many signals to reward developers, and we'll continue to tune this model and curate the best catalog we can. We've been working on PlayPass for several years now, and I wanted to thank the hundreds of developers that have joined us for the initial offering. It's still early days, so please be patient with us as we scale out the program. Another big bet we're making is Play Points. It's a user rewards program that we launched in Japan and Korea late last year, and just this week in the United States. Users can earn points for all their spend across Google Play. But there are plenty of non-spend ways to earn points as well, such as trying new apps or through weekly rewards. These points can then be redeemed for special items or discounts, Google Play credits, or even donated to charity. Our goal is to both thank users for their engagement with Play and offer developers unique promotional and re-engagement opportunities. We worked closely with many developers, and they are incredibly happy with the results. Users have reacted really well to custom offers, leading to increased engagement and spend. With millions of users already earning more than 10 billion points, PlayPoints has been far more successful than we imagined. We're super excited about the long-term future here, and we'll be launching in additional countries soon, so stay tuned. With PlayPoints, PlayPass, and all the effort we're putting into securing the ecosystem, and making Play the best place to discover apps and games, we hope you'll reap the benefits and continue to grow with us. Thank you for your attention. Now let me introduce Chet on stage to tell you more about Android 10 and Android development.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Playtime, and welcome to the most interesting conference center I've ever spoken in. I want to talk about a couple of themes that we've been working on the Android platform for the last few releases and will continue to work on. One of those is focusing on the user, all the capabilities and functionality that we're bringing to users to enrich their lives and their use of these devices. The other is focusing on the developers, the things that we're doing to provide more capabilities for developers to build more and better applications in an easier way. So first of all, let's talk about users. We've been making changes in the last several releases to protect users and to protect their data and to make it more transparent to them how their data is being used. So we're going to talk about some privacy features here. One of the important things to realize is as we button down the platform and protect the data and protect the users, some of these are behavior changes, which means changes for developers that they have to react to. I think we all agree that this is the right thing to do for the platform. Let's do the right thing for the users and then make the changes that we need to. So I want to talk through some of the things that we've done specifically in the latest release, Android 10. A lot of the changes that we've done in Android 10, as well as a couple of the releases before that, have been around the area of location. Now, we've had location permissions for a long time, so if you were directly requesting location, you had to have the permission and the user was aware of it. But there were all kinds of indirect ways to get location information, and we're buttoning those down over time. For example, when you take a picture, usually you get location information associated with it in metadata. This is great, right? I want to know where I took that picture, and that should be a part of that file. That's wonderful. But that means that if another application that didn't take the picture can get access to that file, they indirectly can get access to the location that the picture was taken in. And therefore, they can indirectly get access to tracking your location over time, right? Well, that may not be the information that the user wanted to share with that particular application. So now we've done a couple of things. One is that by default, we redact that information. So if another application gets access to that photo, they do not by default have access to the location metadata that they used to. Another is that that application can request location permission and then can get access to the metadata. So it's all about that transparency of information. Another thing that we're restricting is access to location for background apps. So we have this tri-state now. You used to either get location or not get location in your application. Well, now there's a third state where maybe you can get location, the user can grant that permission while the application is running in the foreground, but they can also deny that while the application is running in the background. So you can either deny it entirely, grant it if the application is in the foreground, or deny it or grant it if the application is in the background. Again, it's about the transparency of the data, not just the data itself. We're also requiring more permissions for find location from some of the communication APIs. We're also restricting access to ProcNet. This is another indirect way to get location information. It's a directory on the system that applications use to have access to that just has a bunch of random network information the system uses. But if you have information about the network indirectly, you also, therefore, have information about location, which, again, the user didn't grant. Therefore, we're not giving access to that. We're also making various other changes in privacy, including contacts affinity. So if you have the right permission, you can get access to the contacts information for the user, but you can no longer access the recency of those contacts. We're also, as Tian mentioned, making it required that you use resettable IDs. You can no longer get non-resettable IDs. It just doesn't make sense for the user to share their device with someone else, and then an application is locked in and has data about users that no longer really apply to them. So we're making it more centralized to the user and their accounts instead of actually locked into the hardware itself. We're also making it required that clipboard data can only be shared with the foreground application and the keyboard, because those are really the only two pieces of software on the system that need this copy-paste information at any time. And we're also restricting access to camera metadata. Through the metadata of the camera, you can access information about the device, and you can find out specifics about what kind of device that is. That wasn't really the intention. Should be specific to the camera, so we require extra permissions around that. Also, another big move that we made in Android 10 is scope storage. So we've changed the way external storage access works. So by default now, when you're targeting Android 10, you only have access to the files that your application created. You no longer have access to all the files that everybody else created. Now, obviously, there are situations where you want access, and the user wants your application to have access to other files. So you can request permissions and use the Media Store APIs to access audio and video and photos that other applications created. So all of that's good. But you no longer have access to random files, let's say a PDF file that some other application created. If you want access to that, then you need to use the Media Framework APIs, which will use the standard system file picker, which again is propagating that transparency to the user and allowing them to grant access to specific files instead of just being able to access everything on the system. Also, we're protecting users' safety on an ongoing basis. So one of the big efforts that we've had recently is around background activities being able to launch other activities. This is obviously something that is required and reasonable in a lot of situations. For example, if you're a phone application, if there's a call, you kind of want that application to come to the foreground. That's reasonable. What's not reasonable is for applications to be running in the background and to pop up a full screen ad on top of what the user is trying to do, right? This is malicious. It's kind of a horrible experience. Let me give you a couple of examples. So you can be navigating using Google Maps, like we see here, and then all of a sudden a background application launches an activity in the foreground, forcing your navigation to go into this picture-in-picture mode, making it harder for you to accomplish the thing that you were trying to do. In an even weirder and real situation that we saw a couple weeks ago, there was a user that was taking a ride. They were using a rideshare app. They got a ride. They're in the car. And they saw these full-screen ads popping up and completely covering the navigation app that the driver was using, causing two things. One was the driver was swerving on the highway as they kept trying to get rid of the ads so that they could get back to the navigation app. And the other was that the driver missed the exit that they were supposed to take because they couldn't see it. Right? So what we've done is we've blocked access. If you're running in the background, you cannot launch these full-screen apps, which means that over the last week, we've blocked nearly 18 million of these pop-up ads, which is kind of a good thing for users. So let's talk about developers. We've been making a huge effort in the last few releases to focus on making Android development easier. We go out to the developer community and we say, what are the Android pain points? Like, we've provided tons of functionality over the last many years, but we know that it's not the easiest thing to develop for, so what can we do to help them out? So there are three things that put together we call modern Android development. One is Kotlin, the language that we enabled. Another is Jetpack, the suite of libraries that makes it easier to develop across releases. And finally, we're adding functionality all the time to the IDE, Android Studio. Let's talk about these. So Kotlin was announced 2.5 years ago as a supported language for Android. There were many developers that were using Kotlin already, but then after we announced official support for that, many more developers joined. In fact, there's over 60% of the top 1,000 apps that are using Kotlin already, and over 53% of pro-Android developers are using Kotlin in their projects. We're also using Kotlin a lot more internally now, including in the Drive app, the News app, Playbooks, and Google Home. And there's many more apps that are going to be coming along with Kotlin support as well. We're also announcing at Google I/O this year that we're going Kotlin first, which means that some capabilities in the platform and the Jetpack libraries are coming out first for Kotlin. We're also doing a lot more training and docs and samples and tutorials and courses. Kotlin Everywhere events that happen this year were all about helping people spin up on the language and the platform and to be able to better integrate Kotlin into their development experience. Android Jetpack is a suite of libraries that we announced a couple of years ago to make Android development easier across releases. Lots of capabilities that we had in Android Jetpack at the time, and many more have been added since. One of the things I wanted to talk about today was one of the new libraries, Jetpack Compose. But it's not just the libraries, it's also about the tools that we're providing that enable Jetpack, and also about opinionated guidance. So what can we do to help you understand architectures that make sense for your platform, for your applications that you are building? But let's talk about Jetpack Compose. So this is a very, very new thing. It's very pre-alpha. We announced at the Android Dev Summit a couple of weeks ago that this is going into developer preview, so you can get access to it now. We wouldn't suggest that you build your apps on it quite yet, because it is in flux, but it is worth checking out. So here's a simple example. I'm an engineer. I like to see some code on the screen. Don't worry, I won't spend too much time on this. Jetpack Compose is about building UI automatically given the state of your application that is held elsewhere. So we have these things called composable functions, and it's a reactive approach to programming where you keep the state in a model somewhere else, and the state informs what you do in these functions. We iterate through these functions and automatically produce the view hierarchy on the screen. So here we pass in a parameter, and then we create a text component on the fly that populates the text on the screen with the parameter that's passed in. Let me walk really quickly through another example. Imagine that there's this contacts application. You have a text field up at the top, and you can quickly type some text in there, and it'll filter the contacts that are shown. So somebody's typed in JI at the top, and then we see the 2 contacts that are associated with those letters there, and then some photo or icon next to them. So I want to show you before and after what it would look like in the current code base using the classic view hierarchy for Android, and what it would look like in Jetpack Compose. Again, a little bit of code on the screen. Don't worry, it'll be quick. All right, so here you have the layout. You have a bunch of XML code that defines what the actual screen looks like, the list of items on the screen, plus the text field at the top. You have another XML layout file that describes each of those items. So we have a layout, we have an icon, and we have some text. And then you have the logic that actually sets up the list. So this binds and creates the views and the adapters, just the logic to sort of create all the things and put them on the screen. And then finally, we have some additional logic to filter this information. Given what the user types at any particular time, we filter the information and restrict the amount of data that's going into the application. So here's what it looks like in Jetpack Compose. This is doing all of that. Right? So it's setting up the layout, it's setting up the list, it's setting up each of the items in there, and it also has the filtering logic built into the middle of it. So a lot more terse, that's kind of the idea. And it also is a really good way of separating the data from your application from the logic that actually drives the UI. There's lots of information that we published online. So there's a Jetpack Compose website that you can check out. One of the nice things on there is a tutorial that you can run through. It goes through similar examples there, but in much more detail than I've had time to go into today. Android Studio has made lots of changes recently. One of those is the 3.5 release. So they took about 8 months, and they stepped back from feature development to focus exclusively on quality, and they had fixes throughout the tool. So many, many bug fixes, making things faster overall and more robust. They continue to work on quality as a primary priority in the project, but I would definitely recommend getting at least 3.5 if you haven't gotten there already. They've also been working on build speed. This has been the #1 request for the last many years. Turns out developers really care about build speed. Who knew? One of the problems with build speed is that it's not just that that we need to work on it to make it faster. It's that as we make improvements there, in the meantime, developers are adding more and more to their projects. So overall, the average speed goes down. The overall build duration goes up because they're adding more things like more annotation processors, different build configs, custom tools all the time. So they're building their projects. So as we're fixing the problem, they're making the problem harder all the time. But we've been continuing to work on it, adding incremental annotation processing to libraries like Dagger and Glide and data binding. And we've added things like resource processing, multi-module dexing, and single RDOT class, all of which means that actually over time, finally in the latest releases, things are getting faster. So here's a graph showing a sample of sort of average build time that did go up because of all these factors in the past, but average build times have gone down 24% recently and continue to improve as the team continues to work on it. We've also added a tool to visualize the build problems. So we are working on things on our side, but it's nice if you can actually see what's contributing to slow build times on your side. So if you added a custom config or some new module that is creating a bottleneck in your build, then this helps you visualize that issue so that maybe you can do something about it. There's also the new Canary that came out for 4.0. many things in there that could be interesting if you want to check out the latest leading edge stuff. One is the Jetpack Compose stuff that I talked about earlier. So if you want to check out Jetpack Compose, you need to use at least this canary build. We also have Java 8 library desugaring. So if you want to use things like Java util stream, then through the magic of the D8 compiler, we have a way to support that. Motion Editor is a visual editor that sits on top of Motion Layout. We've had this in an early version for a while now. We've been demoing it, but writing XML code for it was non-trivial. It was really intended to be used for exactly this tool, so now you can get an early version of that. We also support Kotlin build scripts for Gradle. So I've run really quickly through the things that we're doing for both the users and the developers, and I hope you have a chance to check those out. Now I'd like to welcome Milena and Kobi to talk about what's new in Play.
Hi, I'm Milena, Engineering Director on Play Console.
And I'm Kobi, Product Lead on Play Console. In this talk, we'll tell you about new features for developers on Google Play. Our updates will be across 3 broad categories: next-generation distribution and delivery, games, and business success. These are all juicy topics with new and existing functionality we bring to developers.
Through chats with some of our closest partners, like yourselves, we've learned that you don't think about Play offering as individual tools. You think about it in terms of benefits it brings to your business. And the 3 key things we've heard that you love about this is agility, or the freedom and flexibility to improve the quality of your app. Connection, or the ability to create more meaningful connections with your users and find ways to engage with your user base. And finally, acceleration, or letting Google Play support you in driving growth in areas where our global scale and infrastructure are most useful. You'll see these 3 core values referenced in the slides as we move along. Lots to go through, so let's get cracking.
OK, let's start with distribution. As you just heard from Chet, we're introducing modern Android. It's powerful and opinionated, and it's all about helping you focus on what you do best. Build amazing experiences while Play takes the burden of best-in-class delivery to billions of users. Our foundational vehicle for modern app distribution is the Android App Bundle. As you just heard from Tian, the momentum we're seeing with bundles is incredible. Over 270,000 apps and games have switched to app bundles in production on Google Play, covering more than 25% of Play's install base. App switching see an average 20% size reduction compared to Universal APK, and as a result, partners have reported up to 11% increase in install rate. The size savings are important because many users have storage-constrained devices. On such devices, as apps get smaller, the install success rate goes up. We've also analyzed uninstalls, and we've seen a strong correlation between storage-constrained devices and the uninstall rate. It seems that users without free storage are almost twice as likely to uninstall comparing to users with free device storage. To help you identify if your users are at risk of uninstalling, we've added some new data to the Play console. We'll show you the proportion of your active user base with under 1 GB of free device storage, and we'll show you how much higher is the uninstall rate for such users. The App Bundle also makes it possible for you to modularize your app and decide how and when you deliver modules to users. At Google, we're big believers in modular app development. It speeds up engineering velocity because different teams can design, build, test, and debug features in parallel, rather than working on the same bloated and complex code for a monolithic app. We've heard your feedback when it comes to dynamic feature modules. You want them to be easier to build and integrate into your app. So recently, we've been focused on improving tools and libraries for dynamic feature development, just like you see on the slide. For example, Fake Split Installer Manager is something a lot of people have been asking for. It allows you to install dynamic features offline rather than being online and waiting for the Play Store to deliver them.
At I/O, we also introduced in-app updates, allowing you to update your users which are on the older versions of your app. We're already seeing 10% of top apps and games using this new API to update their users, which is great. The average acceptance rate of such updates is 24%, which speaks to the thoughtfulness and excellent UX flows you have all built when you were integrating this API into your app. Here are a couple of quotes from Redbus, an online bus ticketing app in India, and Goibibo, online travel booking app. You can see how in-app updates help developers increase release velocity and saturation rates. And now that you've had a chance to try in-app updates API, we've heard a lot of feedback that not all updates are equal, and that it would be helpful to know directly on the device whether or not certain update is important. So we're introducing Update Priority, where you will be able to set an importance indicator per release that we will then pass down to your app as you make an API call. We're also introducing staleness, or the number of days that certain device didn't have an update or had an update available but hasn't accepted it yet. And finally, we will expose download progress so you can implement your own progress bar in your own UI. We're really excited about how many developers are leveraging our new dynamic apps framework of app bundles, dynamic features, and in-app updates. We've heard from many of you that you love these features, but that you would like testing to be a lot easier. So that's why at I/O this year we've launched internal app sharing.
Internal app sharing gives you a quick and easy way to share app bundles with your testers. All you need to do is upload an app bundle to Google Play, get a shareable URL, and pass it to your testers who can install and test the app. And we've just launched install links for old versions of your app, so now you can test those too. Paytm is an Indian financial technology company and a super app with more than 35 verticals. Paytm integrate internal app sharing with Jenkins CI and have 35 teams upload more than 150 test builds daily. Nitin John, Paytm's Android architect, calls out how internal app sharing increased the productivity of their QA team and testing processes. It makes us really excited when you leverage our new tools to make your processes more efficient and agile.
OK, let's switch gears and talk about what's new for games. As Android hardware and OS capabilities evolved over the past decade, our amazing game developer partners have trailblazed and built some very exceptional gaming experiences. Through them, we've learned that launching games on Play is similar to launching apps. But we've also learned that in some ways, it's a very different beast. So over the past year, we've been working on a set of features targeted specifically at helping game developers build higher quality games and launch more successfully. To start, we want to address the problem of size. Apps have seen great success with bundles, but games have even bigger challenge, and 150 megabytes is simply not enough. Some of you are using APK expansion files despite their downsides. And we know that many of you are using CDNs to host and deliver your game resources. This results in suboptimal user experience as users install and open an app only to face a long progress bar as additional resources get streamed in. And this is not a one-time thing. The lack of auto updates results in long waits whenever game resources need to be updated. To optimize resource delivery, we'll soon release a new set of delivery options suited for rich apps and games. With that, we're extending the app bundle format to include a new delivery construct called asset packs. Unlike feature modules, asset packs are composed of assets only, no executable code, and they can be very large. Asset packs will be packaged in the app bundle alongside your binary, so you can publish a single artifact to play that contains everything your game needs. You will then have full control of delivery, and you can choose whether to have each asset delivered as part of initial install, shortly after, or on demand. Play asset delivery will also enable texture compression targeting so that your users only get the assets that their device needs, so no wasted space on device or wasted bandwidth. And of course, with the asset delivery, you can rely on Play to keep your assets up to date in the exact same way in which we keep your binaries up to date right now. To be able to include up to 10 gigabytes of game assets in your app bundle, sign up today at the EAP at this link. We believe both user experience benefits and cost savings our asset delivery brings will be significant, and we are keen to onboard as many developers as possible, but we will give advantage and most flexible delivery options to our closest partners like yourselves.
As you heard from Tian earlier, helping protect your game and IP is an area we're focused on. When you have a popular game out there, it's going to attract some bad actors. People who want to cheat, hack the game, take advantage of other players, and so on. These attacks often come through modified APKs, pirated copies of your apps, rooted devices. None of these attack vehicles are necessarily bad by themselves, but they're often used in various bad ways. So we sometimes hear you ask, how do I protect my game's integrity and reduce those attacks? This is where app licensing and safety net come in. Licensing ensures that the APK actually came from Google Play. Or more precisely, it allows you to prevent users from playing the game if they sideload the APK or if it was installed through other means. And safety net complement licensing by attesting the device integrity. Effectively, it makes sure the device is not modifying or spoofing the license check. It can also verify this is not a rooted device, it is an official Android build, and so on. Now, what is the result of using those two pieces of defense? Supercell wanted to control the distribution of their Brawl Stars APK during beta testing. They wanted to make sure that the APK doesn't leak beyond a certain set of countries. On a previous beta launch, they've seen almost 90% unauthorized beta players. With a combination of licensing and safety net, they saw a significant reduction in the number of sessions from leaked builds. They used this for Brawl Star, and they saw in their beta test less than 50% unauthorized beta players. So pretty significant, pretty cool. These two pieces of technology have a much wider set of applications, so they're worth exploring for other integrity-related challenges. But geo-locking of beta tests is a simple use case that many games could benefit from during the soft launch phase. And more generally, we deeply care about your games and IP, and we're actively working on this area. I'm happy to announce that if you're using app bundles, we'll be able to add protections to your apps and games, allowing you to ensure that the app is unmodified and that it is obtained from the Play Store. We're testing this with early access partners and are planning to bring it more widely to close partners like yourself. We think our efforts in this area can drive significant benefits to your business. If you're interested, please talk to your partner manager.
OK, now let's talk about go-to-market plans. We've had a lot of conversations with you over the last year, and it's become apparent that the time you spend in the pre-launch phase is more important than ever before. The stakes have never been higher for launching a game. Competition is fierce, and users have ever-increasing expectations on the game quality. Instead of launching right away, game developers are staying longer in the pre-launch phase, engaging real users through beta programs and beta tests, and spending more time testing and improving quality. As you can see in this chart, pre-launch time has gone up 45% year over year. To help turn this time in pre-launch into user marketing and engagement opportunity, we launched pre-registration to everyone in March this year. With pre-reg, you can have a public presence on Google Play before you're ready to release your game to the world. You can start your user acquisition campaigns earlier and have a natural place in Play to capitalize on all that pent-up demand. And you've definitely responded. You can see two examples here, but since January, more than 1,700 apps and games have run pre-reg campaigns in almost every country in which we have played. And we continue to improve our offering in this area with frequent enhancements to various different tools we have for the pre-launch phase, like beta testing, pre-launch report, and so on. At I/O, we announced the launch of pre-reg rewards, which allows you to give users special in-app items as a reward for pre-registering. This can have a powerful effect. For example, Nexon used this feature for their launch of Faith. Nexon has historically seen around 50% of Google Play pre-registrations convert to installs. By offering a pre-reg reward for Faith, they increased their conversion rate by 20%. And not only that, Players who pre-register on Google Play have almost 50% higher day 60 retention and over 70% higher average revenue per daily active user than users who came through other channels. To some of our closest partners, we also offer milestone rewards, allowing to reward all users based on how many pre-registrations a game gets. Etermax ran a pre-reg campaign with milestone rewards for their launch of Trivia Crack 2. In addition to helping drive pre-launch awareness, using milestone rewards helped build excitement among their fan base as their pre-registrations increased and passed milestones on their way to launching. After launching, Etermax saw that players who pre-registered were more engaged than players who came through other channels, with almost 30% higher week 1 engagement.
OK, we talked about distribution and about games. Now we'll talk about what Play does to help you grow and make more money. So let's start with business decision-making. Data is great, but unless you have good comparisons, it's difficult to answer critical questions like, is my app performance really good, or is there a lot of room for improvement? That's why we launched benchmarks for core statistics over the summer. Compare period-on-period growth rates across acquisition, churn, and actives against up to 200 different curated peer sets. And because this is in our core stats, you can do it against users and devices, and against various dimensions like countries and languages and Android versions. And that's not all. More granular and useful benchmarks are now available in user acquisition reporting, ratings report, and Android Vitals. And in the latter two, you can even edit your comparison sets to judge your performance against custom groups of apps. This is all available today, so go check it out in the console.
And moving from decision-making to money-making. Things have changed a lot over the past year. We're expanding ways for users to purchase your in-app items and subscriptions, even if your app is not running or even installed. So we've introduced Google Play Billing Library 2.0 to enable users to purchase digital goods across the user journey, not just directly within your app. BL 2.0 is easier to integrate, test, and debug, but most importantly, it will unlock new business opportunities for you. You'll see many upcoming features on Play depend on this new foundational layer. For example, with the pending transactions in BL 2.0, you can now support cash payments, a top form of payment in the emerging markets. We're currently in EAP for Japan, India, and Mexico, and we will be expanding to more markets in 2020. BL 2.0 also helps you retain subscribers through the Play Store. Tell us about that a bit more.
Soon we'll be launching 2 new features that will help you win back subscribers through the Play Store. First, you'll be able to offer another plan to users when they're canceling their subscription. For example, if you have Premium and Basic subscription plans, when the user is canceling Premium, you'll be able to offer them to switch to Basic instead. And if that doesn't work, users will be able to come back to the Play Subscription Center to resubscribe later. Once you integrate Play Billing Library 2.0, you will need to do very little additional engineering work to enable those new features. We're looking for EAP partners to help us test those features, so if you're interested, please let us know. And one more thing. At I/O, we announced one-time use promo codes for subscriptions. But we got some feedback that the codes were long and hard to type in for users. So today, we're launching custom codes. Just like you see here, codes like Holiday 2019 that can be multi-use with a redemption code that you can specify limits for. We're excited about Play Billing Library 2.0 and everything it enables. We encourage all of you to move to it and are planning to make it mandatory by 2021. OK, that's it in terms of news and updates from Google Play. We hope you'll find our new features and improvements valuable across modern delivery, games, and business success. As you can see, we're focused on delivering value to our closest partners, and we focused on your business agility, acceleration, and growth. We hope our tools continue to drive benefits to your teams and companies. Thank you, and enjoy Playtime.
Thank you.